It is the last episode for us this year. And
we made it.
We made it. We're not done yet.
Somehow.
We gotta get through this.
Skin of our teeth.
This has been a year, and you typically what happens after the Game Awards is nothing. Nothing happens. We would talk about our top 5 games, our personal lists, and that would be the end of it. But we still couldn't get away from news. News is still dropping. That's pretty big.
Yep.
E3, not bye-bye. 2023.
Done.
It's the last time we're going to hear about E3. It is for sure done. Like, there will not be another E3.
Yep.
There's not a whole lot to say about it because the writing was on the wall, but it's...
And that was back in 2019. The writing was all... It wasn't the pandemic that killed E3. We all know that. Like, it didn't help.
It didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they tried getting Reed Pop involved. That didn't work. So I mean, after Reed Pop, it was like, all right, well, what's the plan? You guys are going to go back to doing your own thing. So
heck, if anything, it damaged Reed Pop's reputation to get
Like,
involved.
oh, man.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a yikes.
Yeah.
I think E3 kind of killed E3. Like, they did it to themselves. You have to evolve, and they just didn't.
But let's be honest.
And when they did evolve, they evolved in the wrong directions. Like,
they doubled down on the nonsense. But speaking of evolving, like what? I don't know what they could have done, honestly. Like what Jeff Keighley is doing with the Summer Games Fest, that is a fairly strictly digital event. The first one that was in person was last year. So, it started as a digital event. So,
and now it's back to journos again only.
Mm-hmm.
Say that again?
Yeah, well, and then the live portion is only journalists again. So,
yeah, which I'm fine with, but
which is good.
Yeah, it should be that way. Yeah,
I agree, but I feel like I don't know what direction that show could have gone without losing its identity, because E3 is what it was because of the in-person, because of the grandiose stage presences and all that. Like, part of that was the spectacle of E3. And I like Summer Games Fest, but the spectacle isn't quite there with Summer Games. The trailers and stuff are there, and so there's hype, but the spectacle isn't there.
It's a show, whereas E3 was an event. Is the way I feel about it.
Well, and I think some of that is because of we just talked about evolution, and we don't get game reveals the same way we used to. Like, E3 was where you had to announce it. Like, that was how it was back in the day. Now it's people love our brands. We can do our own digital things around the year, and it doesn't really matter. So now that things aren't as tied to a specific time frame, to a specific show, that spectacle, that's part of why the spectacle has dimmed, because people realize we can go off and do our own thing and get just as many eyes as if we paid 6 figures for a booth at E3. And that's just really part of it, is why it's dimmed, is because of the fact it's spaced out. It's a lot more spaced out than it's ever been.
And it's just not as fun.
Yeah.
Part of that was like kind of the big outlets being there and like doing like their own little stage presences and having interviews and doing all that. I found that fun too. The GameSpots and the IGNs, and they're doing their own thing and whatnot. Growing up, that was part of it, because it was like after the press conferences, it was like the event after the event, and so it was like you just get online and you just pay attention to everything that would be going on all week long, and that stuff just kind of slowly died off, and here we are. E3 is gone.
Yep. Glad I got to go
I
once.
think
went one
that,
time.
we've talked about this before, but I think E3 could have survived. It just wouldn't have been E3. It would have had to have changed to something else entirely, but that's a whole nother conversation. It feels like we lost a friend that, because, growing up, it was such a big emotion, like hyped event.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah, those weeks when we worked at GameStop, man, those were
yeah.
those
were the
weeks.
Customers would start talking about shush, hold on. And I just turned the screen and all of us would start, it was so much fun.
Yeah. I used to take vacation time and I'd go, me and a friend, like this was back before I worked with Noah, and like I take vacation time, I'd heat up a big bowl of pasta, get some pasta and sauce going, and we just sit there and eat and watch all the shows on the Monday. And it was epic. It really was. And like you said, that spectacle that we got of just kind of waiting through the day, it just isn't there anymore, sadly.
I just thought of this as you guys were talking. And I wonder if one shift E3 could have made, and maybe Jeff can do this, because I still think people
at Jeff
would
Keighley.
like, huh?
I tagged him. I said at Jeff Keighley. That way he can see it.
I wonder if, and I think people would still like this, because I think people would still like the press conferences, the stage presence, the spectacle. If Jeff like rented a venue, kind of like what he does with the Game Awards, but he uses that one singular place for everybody to come do their press conference or whatever. They just, I want to say share the stage, but at different times they use the stage to present their thing. So that way it's already paid for, maybe chipped in by the publishers and whatnot, but it's already paid for. So they don't have to have booth space and things like that. They could still have the stage. They could do their thing for X amount of time. And then I guess kind of continue what they did with the Summer Games Fest last year, where they kind of have the show floor presence. I feel like that could work, because part of it and I think part of it is obviously, Microsoft bringing out a Forza car every year. That kind of stuff costs money. But I feel like honestly, there's money in the console war crap. But, and that would feed into
There's engagement, yeah.
There is, and that would feed into it. Would it cost more technically? Yes. But if the fruit is there, then I feel like it's justified. And especially if you don't have to pay for booth space and a stage and all that, it's kind of already covered for you. You just have to pay for maybe whatever you would want to use for presentation purposes. I feel like that's a better shift possibly for the platform holders and the publishers.
I guess it's just convincing people that that's the way to do it.
Sure. I don't know. It sounds like a good idea to me.
Yep. I still like the idea of exclusive merch.
Huh?
I still like the idea of exclusive merch at the show. Like, that's how you get people. That's how you get the extra monetary stuff. This design only available at Summer Game Fest.
Yeah.
This statue only available at Summer Game Fest. Like,
yeah, because we already know they overpriced that stuff.
Heck, throw in like exclusive demos. I get that sometimes you want to do it just like you do make people pay for early access. Like, buy this thing at the Summer Game Fest booth for this this publisher, get an exclusive demo for this game.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many ways you can market this and make extra money, and it's early access to the demo. Then 2 weeks later, you release it to the public, so that way you still get to use the demo.
Yeah,
there are ways to make it work.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Yeah, E3's dead. It's nice while it lasted, but
nobody's celebrating it, but we get it.
Yeah,
it's not a happier. It's just like it is time. with the way it had trended these past few years. So it was inevitable,
Yeah.
as some would say.
All right.
So
Another big story that kind of
This
dropped.
wasn't inevitable.
yeah, this was.
I don't know if it was inevitable or not. I mean, it depends on where Naughty Dog wanted to go, but they are discontinuing development on the Last of Us multiplayer that they were working on, the live service version of the Last of Us multiplayer. And that's the one thing I forgot to do when I was looking this up. I don't know if somebody else could pull it up. Needing the what's it called?
What are you looking
Their
for?
excuse.
What they said.
for it.
What they said.
Yes.
I can read it.
there-
I've got it on Twitter.
Okay.
At least I should. Yep. Let me pull it up real quick. Here we go.
Yeah.
I've got it.
Pull it up.
So, this was what was said in the update. It says, "We realize many of you have been anticipating news around the project that we've been calling The Last of Us Online. There's no easy way to say this. We've made the incredibly difficult decision to stop development on that game. We know this news will be tough for many, especially our dedicated Last of Us factions community who've been following our multiplayer ambitions ardently. We're equally crushed at the studio as we're looking forward to putting it in your hands. We want to share with you some background on how we came to this decision. The multiplayer team has been in pre-production with this game since we were working on The Last of Us Part 2, crafting an experience we felt was unique and had tremendous potential. As the multiplayer team iterated on their concept for The Last of Us Online during this time, their vision crystallized, the gameplay got more refined and satisfying. We were enthusiastic about the direction we were headed. In ramping up to full production, the massive scope of our ambition became clear. To release and support The Last of Us Online, we'd have to put all of our studio resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development on future single-player games. So we had two paths in front of us: become a solely live service game studio or continue to focus on single-player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. We are immensely proud of everyone at the studio that touched this project. Learnings and investments in technology from this game carry into how we develop our projects and will be invaluable in the direction we are headed as a studio. We have more than one ambitious brand new single-player game we're working on here at Naughty Dog, and we cannot wait to share more about what comes next when we're ready. Until then, we're incredibly thankful to our community for your support throughout the years." So, this is kind of that, it's back to you can't waste time. Like, if it's not gonna work, if you can't 100% this is what you have to do.
Yeah, like you don't want to, if the flow is not there when you're at a certain point, you need to just cut your losses and say, "Hey, we tried, it didn't work. Let's either, switch it up and do something else, start fresh, maybe just shelve it until you can come up with a way." But I've said this multiple times here, live service is not bad, but not everything needs a live service.
Yep.
And Naughty Dog, like, I think this is a good, not lesson, because it definitely sucks that, like, their show, all that hard work, like they said, all that time and investment, that's not really going to produce a profit or, a result. But I think this is a good, respectful lesson in stay in your lane. Like,
Yep.
you guys excel at single player experiences and narratives. Don't try to jump into the live service thing, which we don't know the full story about who wanted to do it. Like, it could have been something Sony kind of pushed. It could have been something that they genuinely wanted to try.
I think it's probably bit off more than we can chew, is the way I look at it, because what they did with Factions was great. And then they were like, let's grow this into something even more unique. And it reminds me of, like, Druckmann. A lot of what he does reminds me of Ken Levine with BioShock, of a game almost doesn't come out because it has to be perfect.
Yep.
And I think they had some people at the studio that kept, this has to be perfect. This has to be perfect. And the more they kept doing it, the more they kept doing it. And then Bungie comes in and looks at it and says, nah, this is not how you're going to be able to
There's
do
not
the
enough
live service.
engagement.
This
Yeah,
isn't going to
you
be
need
able to be work for live service the way you think it is. And suddenly they are looking at it and saying, okay, we either have to stop this or we're like, I wouldn't be surprised if Bungie didn't lay out, look, you're going to have to pull staff from this. You're going to have to do this. This is how you're going to have to support this project. And when they realized, crap, this is what we have to do. Like you said, they had to make that rip off the Band-Aid decision and just be like,
it's
we
going
just
to
can't
be
do it.
more expensive, more time, more resources that they could be putting into other things that they are seeing progress in. It doesn't. I don't think this is a knock to Naughty Dog at all. I don't
No.
think this is a failure or a they couldn't do it.
If anything, I think this is a smart
Yeah.
decision. It's like you actually had to make a decision to pull the plug on a bunch of money that you invested
Mhm.
into time and money you invested into something. And that's
Yep.
not an easy decision because I do think Sony let them make this decision.
I think so too. It's because you have Naughty Dog. If Naughty Dog doesn't feel that they're ready or that it needs to move forward, you have to listen to them. You can't just
Yep.
disregard their opinion because they've helped build Sony up.
Yep.
With their titles and franchises and stuff. So I think it's a good move.
I think one thing we can be really glad about in this situation, like we didn't end up seeing, and I'm not saying that Last of Us Online is like this. This is not what I'm saying when I say this, because in all fairness, could have been absolutely phenomenal. I'm glad that we didn't have an Anthem moment for this studio because we see how it has affected BioWare and obviously the trust that people even have in BioWare at this point. And while I do think Naughty Dog has, I don't want to say burn people because I don't feel like that is the thing. I think Naughty Dog is in a position where because the only things they've really done is remasters recently, people are kind of looking and saying, look, we need something from you. Like what have you done for me lately? Kind of like That's kind of what we're looking at. Because Insomniac and Sony Santa Monica, even Guerrilla, probably looked at as the better studios in terms of like Sony's. Like Naughty Dog used to be top dog,
Used to be
no pun intended.
Yeah.
But it's like right now they are kind of riding on the coattails of what they did in yesteryear. So even with part one being fantastic, even with them remastering it, even with I'm sure part two, the remaster is going to be well done. Thankfully, they did go the route of it's only $10 more. Most people own part two, so it's not like it's going to be. Yeah. You can go out and get a cheap copy of part two. It's not going to be that hard to.
It's on sale every season.
You're not going to have any problem getting that for cheap. But Naughty Dog's, unfortunately, they're having to start fresh, and they are going to be under the microscope a little bit extra on this one. So hopefully they can really push. They can get these projects off the ground because I'm assuming that a lot of these projects are still early stage. So we honestly might be looking at getting their next game at the end of this gen. It's kind of sad, but that's just where we are, and it hurts Sony. Sony overall is kind of having some rough time with some of their decisions. With some of the layoffs that they've had to do, with some of you can tell that this live service push definitely stunted their growth. I think they're probably in a better place than Ubisoft was, because I think Ubisoft let too much of it inhabit everything to the point where they were having to cancel projects left and right, whereas Sony, while I think they invested in plenty of them, I feel like that they have been quicker to pull the plug compared to Ubi in the pivot. So it's good to see, and like you said, I mean, if you're gonna do a live service game, it's gonna have to be absolutely top tier. You're just in such a crowded space; people do not want to switch.
It's hard, it's almost weird. You need to let the success of a live service game, if you're a company, you need to let that come to you versus you pushing for it. Like, you shouldn't
Yeah.
push for the success of a live service game. You should develop what you want, and then if people want that, then you can start delving research. You don't need to just throw live service games out there just to try and be the next thing.
Well,
So
I feel like the studios that do that are the ones that fail. Like, if you are, I would say, like, I agree with the sentiment that you're saying, but I think,
like, you shouldn't. It should naturally. I'm trying to think the best way. Like, you shouldn't go into the thought of pushing out a live service game to make money and for it to be successful. It should just almost, I don't know, it's just because they're so random now. Like, it has to be special in order to be successful, because
they have to be. I mean, the
Or
point
you
of
can't
a
just
live
churn
in the
out.
world.
I think I hear what you're saying. It's just the words that you're using
I'm
are
trying.
not.
Yeah, it's not.
Or that, because
It's
I'm like, yes, you make a live service and you do make it with the intention of making it good, and you do make it with the intention of making money, because most live services are free to play, so they have to make money. Otherwise,
You
you
can't
don't get
just
that.
trace. You can't just chase a trend. I think that's what Noah's trying to say.
And I would, but
That's
the
a little
trend
dumbing
is
it
live
down a little
service,
more.
right?
Yeah.
So like,
that's my language. So
yeah, and that's fair. I do agree with that. I think studios like Naughty Dog have something that could be unique that nobody else could have in the Last of Us factions. So I understand them and Sony going, hey, why don't you guys take that thing you did and turn it into a live service? And Naughty Dog's probably thinking, it might not be a bad idea if we could flesh it out and make it more pop, because the factions in the original Last of Us multiplayer, like it was, I think it's one of the most underrated multiplayer ever.
Yep.
I really
And
enjoyed it.
yeah, it's really good. But a lot of, I would say probably 70 to 80% of the actual Last of Us players didn't care about it.
Yep.
And I think if they figured out a way to make it something where people would care about it, Last of Us 2 players, Last of Us players, then there's something there for that. And maybe people who aren't into the Last of Us single player, like a repeat player, or play it on New Game Plus, or whatever the options are, they might be into the idea of a multiplayer of it. They just didn't like faction, or whatever the original one. So I can understand the thought, yeah, we can do this. I'm confused about the people who are like, this statement is just PR, and there really wasn't only two decisions to be had. They could have just made a regular multiplayer game, and that would have been fine. And my thought is, who's doing that now?
Yeah.
The market surely don't give a flip about that. They sure as heck don't care about just a multiplayer game attached to your single player game. No, they want these ongoing services that provide them things on an ongoing basis, hence live service. So those people I don't understand. I'm like, okay. I look at this and I think this is Overwatch flipped. Overwatch tried to create a single player, but they had to focus on live service because the live service was suffering because of the single player. This was, we tried to create a multiplayer, but our single player development is suffering, so we need to stop doing the multiplayer. I feel like that's a totally legit reason for this, because live service is such a resource intensive thing. You need
expensive
people.
It's so expensive.
Very expensive. So I don't understand why people would suggest that this isn't the real reason, or there's got to be something else, or I don't.
It's that thing of everybody complaining about co-op not existing in video games anymore. Why can't you just throw this in? You don't just throw it in.
You don't.
Somebody has
like,
to make this game work with co-op.
Oh, my favorite
suits need
statement
some.
I saw from somebody on Threads was, yeah, they could just start a new studio easily. That was, I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, they could just create a new live service studio out of Naughty Dog.
I mean, are there
Yeah,
tons of like
easily.
laid off workers to get? Sure, but where's that money coming from?
Right.
Like,
I'm like, there's startup costs there to start a.
And also, you're not.
there's a
going
reason
to-
not everybody just does this.
Well, also, how are you gonna? You're not gonna get a paycheck for 4 years because you're gonna be deving the game for 4 years.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
like-
actually the thing. They are going to get paychecks. They are going to get paid. The problem is, are they going to make that back when
Yep.
they make the live? That's the risk of a live service. That's why it has to be a banger. Because if it's not, your studio is doomed, or at least
Well, and that's-
in a really bad situation.
Well, that's why Sony's pivoting back. Like we're seeing this pivot this year. Like we really are. We haven't gotten a lot of updates on games. Why? Because a lot of these studios have had to repivot. Because you've either put out your single player game or you're pivoting. That's what it feels
Pivot.
like right now. Like you're
Pivot.
literally, that's what's going on. So that's why they haven't had a lot to show this year. That's why we don't know a lot about next year. You're having to make all these changes, and in all fairness, it's for the best. Like
Yeah.
am I sad that
There's-
Factions isn't coming out? Yeah, as Anthony said, it's probably going to be one of the more unique multiplayer games in the space. Honestly, whatever they came up with, but
Mhm.
if it's going to cost you your soul, so to speak, as a studio, then don't do it.
That's
Like,
exactly
no.
what it was going to do.
That's exactly what happened to BioWare with Anthem.
And look
It's
at them
exactly
now.
what happened to them. Yep. I mean, we're just having to hope that Dragon Age that
Yeah.
they can pull it off. Like we're just having to hope that they pull it off. Look at Redfall's another example. A game that was supposed to be live service and got cobbled into what it eventually was, with 70% of the original team leaving.
Battlefield 2042 turned into a live service, and I think a bigger part of the problem was they tried to copy other games and what made those successful instead of sticking to what makes Battlefield successful. But still, that's what you're having to think about when you create a live service.
Mhm.
Are people going to play Battlefield if it's a live service, like just as a live service, or do we need something that brings in even more people? Monetary decision, and even that, like we hear something like that and we think, oh, they're just greedy. Perhaps that's probably 70% of the reason.
Probably.
But the other 30% could be, we're making a live service game. This is very expensive and it's ongoing. We're going to need some more money. So we're going to have to do some things. We're going to have to include some things that would include a player base that is not typically Battlefield. So we need some hero shooter like elements. We need some, grappling hooks and, just different things to bring those players in, because maybe if they like that, then they would stick around and pay some money.
Yep. These
These are the kind of decisions that need to be made when making live service. And I would agree with Noah on this. On your natural, I think I'll say it this way. I think it might sound a little better. The game that you're making needs to be naturally a live service. Knockout City
That's a good.
worked.
Yep.
Yes, it didn't last forever, but who says live services are supposed to last forever, right? Fortnite, one of the greatest examples of a live service.
Enigma. That'll never. I don't know if we'll ever have something like Fortnite. again.
That's the first three phases of Marvel movies of the video game industry. Like it somehow works and we don't know why.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going and nobody.
But even they are having to evolve with Fortnite Festival and
Absolutely.
Fortnite
The OG.
Racing and
The
Fortnite Minecraft, essentially, with Legos. Like
Absolutely.
It started though with the OG, like them bringing back the
yeah.
classic map and stuff. That shot engagement up.
that's called we just fired everybody, so we got to bring back something easy to put in.
Yeah, right.
Something,
Yeah, I mean,
drag
Tell me
back
one of
over
y'all that
that.
was fired don't got the master disc.
I crap a lot on Destiny, but they have done right
Longer than
things.
other people.
Right.
Yeah,
So there are
well,
We're
even
not
them,
saying that. We're not saying they're
like-
100% like
well,
the
like
best,
even
but still.
Bungie. I mean, this year, if this year more recently, last 6 months have taught us anything, is that they're struggling to, because of how expensive it is. Like it's not a easy thing to do.
no, it's not. It's marketing costs. All it's so much that goes into a live service. It's such an expensive endeavor, and it's there are a lot of similarities between making a finished experience, one that actually ends, versus something that's ongoing. But
Mhm.
If you look, even Microsoft, there's not a lot of live service on that announcements list. It's like
no, and Sony
even
was
they
thinking
know.
they could do 10 by 2026. Like, really? That was ambitious from the start.
Yep. I think it just goes to show again, you better have something worth putting in with live service, and even then, it may not work. Like,
Yeah,
that's really what it boils down to.
You better have the finals up. Like,
Yeah,
that's
the
what you better
finals
be cooking up.
Yeah, it works. Like this is a game that just
Even
just
still,
makes sense as a live service.
Let's see what it is 6 months down the line. Like, it's you got to have a absolutely fantastic gameplay and concept, but man, even then, 6 months in, you never know where you're going to be.
You don't,
because we got to see them support this over the next 6 months. Like,
but more developers
have the stuff.
Are getting hip to the idea of we need to be prepared.
Yep. Well, no, and I've
have the first year done.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I like one of the things I talked to him. I've noticed with Call of Duty, I've never seen this many just random events. Like, we've had an event almost every week that is just it's literally either grind, like just basic
For
XP that you're already earning, or if you buy this bundle and equip this skin, it'll give you a bonus amount for every match. Like, for like this event that's like 10 rewards long, it's like an extra tier, but it's like it's either that or it's do specific challenges to earn this stuff. And it's like I just do it just for the sheer sake of it's there, but it's that thing of like, man, I really wanted that Dune sand themed camo, reactive camo for my weapon at the end, so I just played with that specific skin and to get it faster. And I mean, it took me like literally one gaming session, but just the fact that there's almost always something for me to do right now when I'm jumping into Call of Duty is like, it's actually pretty crazy because they're really starting to nail the live service formula in terms of it's not just my daily challenge, it's not just my weekly challenges, but there's additional crossover challenges that are going on. So it's like you said, it is live service is not just shoehorn it in. You have to put effort and work into it. And as we can see in that announcement, they just could not see themselves that they had to put every resource into it if they were going to do it, and they couldn't. That wasn't the passion of that studio. And as much as that sucks, if that's not their passion, they don't need to be doing it.
Nope.
Because you end up with Redfall, and I'm not just trying. I'm trying to not crap just on Redfall over it because I said it in the review process. There are things that I like about Redfall, but I mean, there's a reason 70% of that studio left. They didn't like what they were doing.
Oh, that and the single player side of Naughty Dog would have suffered too. So then you would have got mediocre live service, and then single player would have been mediocre, and then everybody
if it was worked on at all.
Yep.
Right. So this was the best decision. I imagine y'all said that while I was out.
Yep. Essentially, it sucks and it sets them back. It definitely sets Naughty Dog back, but it's the right decision.
All you have to do to bounce back is after the holiday season, let everybody.
I was waiting for you to say remaster Last of Us Part 2 remastered.
I thought about it, but I'm trying to be more mature, No. So all you have to do is just let the holiday season pass, and then take 2 weeks, get you some art people in there, and make a teaser and just give us a glimpse of your next single player. Everybody will forget it.
I was
That's
thinking
true.
add a roguelite. Because that's what Sony's doing right now, is adding roguelites to all their games.
We need
I
to
ain't saying
move
it's a bad
on.
decision, because apparently God of War Valhalla is phenomenal.
We need to move on, or I'm going to spend 30 minutes talking about this roguelike. Oh, it's so good. So,
Spoiler,
We might
this
save
is
that
the
for
number
another
one
episode.
game on Noah's Game of the Year list.
if it wasn't free, I don't feel right putting
That's a DLC, so
free DLC. I don't even like putting like
I don't like
DLC
putting expansions or
expansions.
DLC. Yeah. Like, there's just something like as good as Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty is, and as much as it remakes the game has been out for multiple years.
Mhm.
So, because that may have been on my list if not for.
But yeah, play Valhalla. It might be the best DLC I've ever played. So
Okay. Well, that's it. Might as well just start talking about games.
Yeah.
We got our top 5 lists, each
Yep.
of us, our
Pulling
own
mine up.
individual lists
wrong button.
that we will talk about. So we'll go from 5 to 1 for each of us. I have a little timer for our discussion of each game, so that way we don't get too crazy and this podcast becomes super long.
This is when I
So-
quote the entire speech from Larian's game director on Twitter that he didn't get to say at the award show.
So yeah, when you hear this sound
already.
that means we need to wrap it up. And
All right, there,
keep it
Jeff
moving.
Keighley.
Yep. Wrap it up, please. All right, we'll go from bottom up. No, we'll start with you. What is your number 5 game this year?
It was one that I actually reviewed myself, so I'm a little biased. But it's on Game Pass. It's a title called Ravenlock. It's my indie darling of my top
Oh.
5 list. I gave Blasphemous 2 a higher score, but Ravenlock still won me over. It's got wonderful progression. If you like the Breath of the Wild style, where you have to pick up on dialogues to progress your side quests, major quests, and stuff, you'll love it. Combat's very hack and slash, and it's based a dark reference to Alice in Wonderland. So play it on
Well,
Game Pass.
That was that one game that's top down, right? No, I'm thinking of a different one. I thought you showed
Yeah,
it to
this-
us.
This one's third person. So
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of something else then.
with like a pixelated art style. So
Oh, that game. Okay.
yeah,
Never mind.
it's played on
Yeah.
Game Pass. So
Yeah, I didn't play that one, and I haven't seen much of it. Okay. Ravenlock made your top 5.
it's my indie darling. I
What?
adored that game.
So you scored it lower than not Dredge.
Blasphemous 2. Yep.
Yeah, so why is maybe Blasphemous 2 is on your list, but you don't know.
Spoilers.
I'll ask it if Blasphemous 2 ends
So
up
it's
on
one
your
of
list.
those. So it's not a spoiler.
Oh, okay.
The reason why is that in terms of, I talked about all the pros of Ravenlock. Some of the cons is there are a lot of the basic foundational aspects of the game that were a little weak. In terms of, it was just simple. Like the combat was just a dodge, and and it was a very basic game. So I didn't feel that way it deserved a really high score. Whereas everything about Blasphemous 2 as a game, I think, was better. But it's kind of while one game is higher scored technically, you still have a soft spot for this game, and that kind of supersedes the score.
Yeah, I get it when you explain it that way. The overall package
Oh, yeah.
of Blasphemous 2 comes together more cohesively, and therefore, gets a higher score and
I
recommendation.
have a similar one on my list where it might not be a perfect game, but man, is it like so
Is
much
it just
fun.
my
Yeah. No, I got plenty of those games on my list. They're far below my top 5, but they are the games I spend a lot of time playing still. All right, David, what is your top 5 or your 5th?
Well, let me tell y'all a story about the Lord of the Rings Gollum. No, I'm just kidding.
Sit around the campfire.
No.
We're
I
gonna
thought you were
hear
going to
I
say
was-
our Lord and Savior Alan Wake.
No, we're only at 5.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to rag too hard on Gollum because I actually did score it higher than most because I had my fun with it. But
Yes, you did.
You mistyped.
this one.
That's-
So what's funny is I actually had a different. I had a different game on this list as at 5, and then I scrolled through my PlayStation games I played this year on the PS app. I'm like, oh wait, that one.
You're like, what?
Well,
What's that?
I actually.
I always
What's
hate
funny
it when
is
that happens where you're like, oh my gosh, I love this thing so much, and like, what is it? And you're like, has to scream.
What's bad is
scroll through
I
the
did
notes.
the.
I hate that feeling because I feel like such a bad person.
Well,
when
what's
that
worse
happens.
is I sat at the end of the year doing the PlayStation Wrapped or whatever, and like looked. I'm like, I got 2 platinum trophies. What was the second one? And I'm like racking my brain. Like, oh, this game. So this is the second time I've forgotten that game. And I feel horrible about it. It's actually Sherlock Holmes: The Awakened.
Oh, I forgot you played that.
Played that, had so much fun with it. The Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1, I reviewed. That was the first Sherlock Holmes game I'd played in a while, and it was just such a good exploration game. Like the detective work, all the things you did in it, and the team came back and was like, you know what, to do this quicker, we can go ahead and remake a game. But they chose The Awakened, which is, if you go back and look at like the 2000, I think it was 2006 is when it came out. Man, the major upgrade that this game got in terms of how they did it, because pretty much they took the base bones of the story, like the most base bones of it, and they built the entire game around that. So it's even more than just, to me, a remake because of how they did everything, because they've added new story to it. They've added new voice lines. They've even changed how you play different sections of the game. Like you see it there. If you did like side by sides or watch certain sections, you're like, okay, that's still a part of the game. But this is like a true just a remake in the sense of taking the absolute base of what is there and rebuilding it. It's such a pretty game. The games that they make are always look really good. The descent into madness of Sherlock is, I'll be completely honest, the way the game ends, I wasn't the biggest fan, even if I saw why everything was going the way it was. Yeah, that was tough. And shout out to Alex Jordan, the voice actor for shout out to Alex Jordan, the voice actor for Sherlock. He was phenomenal in Chapter 1. He's phenomenal here. And he's also phenomenal as Mr. Hands, by the way, Noah, in Cyberpunk.
Oh.
Okay.
You have Noah's
All right,
interest
yep.
now.
I
There you
recognized. I was going through. I was like, which voice was that? Okay, yeah.
I forgot that game came out this year. I thought that was last
Yeah,
year.
no, it came out this year.
Good Lord. So many games.
Man, I know. What about you, Anthony? What's your number 5?
My number 5 is a remaster, Metroid
Ooh, like me,
Prime.
Nice.
Yeah, just like you, David. How do you improve on perfection? Add dual stick controls. There you go. That's how.
Yeah.
that's how you do that, and upgrade the textures. Yeah, it's Metroid Prime. It's freaking an amazing game. Still an amazing game. Holds up extremely well as a Metroid game. Holds up extremely well as a game, period. It is much easier to play with dual stick controls because it's just not built for that, but whatever. Who cares? Everybody who buys this game probably already beat it 300,000 times anyway. So why not make it a little bit easier for the people? But yeah, it's Metroid Prime. It's still a fun, fantastic game. I didn't get to finish it because there's so many other games to play, but over this Christmas break, I will be playing more of that. That was the other part too. This doesn't really make the game better, but it feels crazy playing this game while I'm just sitting on my couch. It's just the idea of like, I remember playing this game on my game. I'm tethered to the console, sitting on the couch, on the TV. Now I'm sitting on the couch and I'm just like here, just chilling. I could play as I'm going to bed. Yeah, that's a fun feeling for that game. All right. David, what is your number 4?
Number 4, coming in hot, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Because Jedi Survivor, it's another one of those games. It's just so good. The original game was already a very good iteration on a Star Wars game, like just the exploring the planets, the combat system going a little bit more Soulsy, even though it's not really Soulsy, was a really good choice. Just the fact that you had to be more precise. It wasn't just like Force Unleashed, run around, throw people off cliffs and just swing your lightsaber wherever. Like the fact that it added that precision to being a Jedi was really, really cool. And you felt it in the controls. Survivor improves on all of it. And it doesn't only improve on it, like it is just such a masterclass of how to build a great Star Wars game, because it has phenomenal story, phenomenal combat, phenomenal platforming, and everything is just made so much better. There's another game on my list I'll make the same reference to it, but it's similar to how Horizon Zero Dawn went to Horizon Forbidden West. It wasn't necessarily a tremendously different game, but every system in that game had been improved upon. And that is what happened in this sequel jump in Survivor, is everything's improved upon. And I mean, I don't know that you even can improve upon, but Cameron Monaghan gives a absolutely lights out performance. Like, dude is awesome. He was, as Noah has said before, born to play this role. Like, dude is just perfect as Cal. Like, it's when you have a character that people want to jump to live action, you've made a good character.
Agreed. The only thing I wish about Survivor is that they didn't remove so much of the Metroidvania aspects of it. I like that in Fallen Order. Maybe I just did put Metroid in my top 5, so I like Metroid E.
I think the worlds are just so spaced, though. Like, I think that's what makes it, because it still has some elements of that. It's just so open.
Yeah, some.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as deliberate. It feels like it's making a concession to the idea that maybe people didn't like this that much for this game. But
they just added so much more exploration.
Yeah, but the worlds are still fun to explore. They're really well done. All right, my number 4 was Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah.
Pretty obvious as to why. From an action game standpoint, it's really not like this incredible, like crazy, brand new, fresh take on action platforming. But as a rhythm-based game, it's one of the best rhythm-based action platforming games. It might be the best one. Because everything feels so smooth. The gameplay is solid. The amount of control and action you have while playing this game, where you are encouraged and rewarded for hitting actions on a beat, which might feel restrictive, does not feel like it's holding you back. You feel like you're still performing a bunch of action, and it's moving fast and you're having a great time with it. So the fact that they were able to pull that off, and then on top of that, make it look great, and then on top of that, have great music, and then on top of that, have awesome characters as well. Hi-Fi Rush is just a full package of goodness that deserves all the accolades that it gets from wherever it gets. It certainly didn't get that much in the Game Awards, but
hey, it got more than a lot of others. So they still got 2 awards, I think.
I think 1.
Okay,
yeah, it got best.
Forza. It It got
It
best
got best
art
music.
or well, it wasn't best. It was best sound design. That was it.
Yeah. That's what it
But
was. Which was more
in
than
any
Spider-Man
case,
2.
yep. In any case, I wish that I had more time to play that game because it is not on my list, and I feel like it would be if I'd had the time to play it.
Oh, it's so good. So good. Noah, what's yours? Number 4.
Number 4. This one did bigger and better. That's the meme of sequel games are, oh, we just have to go bigger, crazier, wilder. Generally gets boring. But this sequel did so many things right. It's Spider-Man 2.
Oh,
I
okay.
loved the performances, the action, the story, really insane scale. So under 30 seconds. That's what I'm shooting.
33 seconds to be precise.
Ooh, I was pretty close.
That was pretty good. Okay. Succinct on Spider-Man 2. 'Cause, I mean, is it mostly just Spider-Man, but bigger and better? Because
Yes.
I know you didn't say, like, not every sequel has to be bigger and better, but that's kind of what Spider-Man 2 is.
Oh, it was a general statement of. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'll talk more on Marvel Spider-Man 2 shortly, but I played remastered on doing a test on a hard drive, and I kept trying to deploy my web wings from muscle memory. It is so good. Like when it really bigger, better, improved, like it is.
That's very
Can't argue with that. All right. We'll start with me on my number 3. Podium finishes now.
What is podium finishes now? The game. What is that?
Yeah, the top 3, the ones on.
Yeah.
David, messing up my flow. My number 3 is Street Fighter 6. I've gushed about this game over and over and over. So if you've heard this podcast, you understand where I sit with Street Fighter 6. I think it is the fighting game that puts fighting games back on the map in a way that brings more people into it. Street Fighter, I think, was the game that brought people into fighting games in the first place. Street Fighter 6, I think, is the one that brings even more people into fighting games at this point. Just everything that they include, from all the in-game trainings that are fairly exhaustive, and the story mode that allows you to play in the variety of ways, however you pretty much want to play. It's just top to bottom, the best fighting game this year, and certainly my number 3. Noah, what is your number 3?
It's one that's already been, I think, might be a repeat, first repeat. It's Jedi Survivor, Star Wars.
Oh.
I adore this game. I adore Cal. I adore the gameplay. It deserved to win so many awards, but not when BG3 and Tears come out. So
No.
Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
All right.
What was that
David?
time?
It was 29 seconds. It's under
like,
30.
yeah.
That one was under 30. What was yours, David?
Very unexpected here. RoboCop Rogue City.
Whoa. That got the bronze medal for you?
Because man, I had
God.
just been through some of the best games of my life, playing them, like working so hard at it, being intimidated writing it.
Yeah.
I know.
Yep. Could beat
The
those.
Great White Buffalo appeared before David after those 2 games.
Fam, I was in a trance, that's for sure. But I was so just you just get to that point and you're just kind of worn out, and then this game all of a sudden comes in the inbox because of course it releases as I'm just like absolutely putting in the work, and it's such a pretty game. It may not be the best gameplay you've ever, but man, is it so fun. Like just running around shooting that that Auto 9 pistol. Like there's a flippin' trophy for shooting a guy in the nuts. Like they even react. It's just great. Like when you hear some dude when you shoot it and he does that old school like comedic scream from the movies. Oh God, my arm!
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. Like it
That's
just
exactly
was
what
such
that game is based off of.
yeah, but it's just it's such a breath of fresh air in the middle of all these great serious games that I was playing, and I got the platinum trophy on it. It was my other platinum trophy for the year, so I got most of them admittedly in the first playthrough, but it's like it was just fun to play, and I don't get to play enough fun to play games. Like there's a lot of games that I enjoy playing, but man, they made it fun to play.
That's crazy. I not would have expected that game to reach bronze. Okay,
Yep.
that's all right.
It's better than its score.
Okay. All right, Noah. What is your numero two? What gets the silver medal for you?
This will be a very big shock to both of you. It is Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh, that
It
is
is my number two.
Wait. Yeah,
I said it was shocking. Yeah, I know.
okay. Now-
I'm
now
not
I
hearing
don't-
Uno. I'm hearing those. What?
Run two, Noah.
It's okay. No. Yeah, there's nothing that can be said about this game that I haven't said already. It's charming, fun to play, incredible story, visuals. It's bigger and better than Breath of the Wild. So go play it. Spend 130 hours like I did.
Or more. God, what is your number one then? Good Lord. Okay. David.
It's called a curveball.
That's a knuckleball.
MLB 23.
Yep.
I saw the writing on the wall.
All right, David, what's your
I'll
number
make it if
two?
Yamamoto signs with us. I'll make it my number one.
Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is my number 2 for game for the year. Just I love that game. Like it is so much fun to play. I already mentioned the web wings. Like you watched it like in there when they showed it off for the first time. You're like, that's cool. It's just gliding though. Does it really do that? Oh man. Like just the effortless like swinging around, like hit your web wings, glide around a corner, go back to swinging, like just all the momentum based traversal is phenomenal in the game. It's bigger, it's better, it's such a huge city. It's a technical marvel in the fact that you can instantly fast travel anywhere on that map. Like the fact that you can instantly do that's amazing. And as I said in our podcast, it does feature one of the best narratives in video games. Like it is just such a great story that they are telling, and the side stories are enjoyable as well, which we all know not every game does side content right. I feel like Marvel Spider-Man 2 did side content right.
Fascinating. Okay. My number two is a game we've gushed about all our podium finishers, but A Space for the Unbound. Indie game nobody has heard about. But everybody
They
needs
need to hear
play.
about it here, man.
Yeah, it's such a good game. It's got heartfelt. It makes you feel all the emotions that exist, and the way they tie in the narrative and what the theme is about is exceptional. It touches on tough things, one particular tough theme, and they created a story that just makes so much sense and gives you the feeling of what it would feel like to go through that and to overcome that if you yourself have never been through what the theme is about. So the way they draw you into the characters, the way they draw you into the story, the way they draw you into the theme of it and what it's about, to make you feel the thing, I mean, at some points it just feels straight up therapeutic at times. Like it is just it's such a great freaking game. People need to play that game. And it's not just a walking simulator. There's some fun gameplay elements in it too, which I don't find very often in walking simulators. So very much WarioWare like mini games, but they're all spoofs on different games and game mechanics. So there's a lot of humor in there too to mix things up. So I always appreciate when games have gameplay, and this has gameplay. So little bonus points for me. So Space for the Unbound is my number 2. Now we are at number 1. Thankfully, Noah is going last because I'm really curious what the frick his number 1 is, since it's not Tears of the Kingdom. David, you're holding your finger up to stop me. What's going on?
It's just number 1.
Oh, I thought you were pulling the mask. Somebody stop me. David, what's your number 1?
We really need to talk about Skull Island: Rise of Khan. We are
sleeper.
Yeah,
you played all of it.
It was a sleeper, all right. I fell asleep, and somehow it was finished when I woke up.
Did you not read the script? I'm supposed to be the one to reveal a random pick.
No, I'm here to tell you about our Lord and Savior, Alan Wake 2. It could not have been anything else. Y'all have heard me gush over this game. It is a technical marvel. It pushes forward the medium and the way that they have crafted this game. The combat it's not the focus of the game, but it doesn't have to be. It is just fantastic in the way it is. The whole burning light off of the Taken to then shoot them, like just the symbolism of it, as well as just the combat is fantastic. One of the prettiest games you'll ever play. One of the best narratives ever. The best narrative this year. The dual narrative, the way they weave it is fantastic. This is just like how Tom Cruise somehow made the perfect sequel to Top Gun 36 years later. They have made the perfect sequel to Alan Wake 2 here 13 years later, and I love how they're mixing up this whole connected universe that we really have not seen in video games at all. Like, this is just so cool. It's so well done, and also Herald of Darkness is one of the most fun video game songs ever, and it's actually what we've seen in it performance-wise is literally in the video game. He put it in the video game. I just love this game. It is such a good game.
I wish I cared about Alan Wake and survival horror-ish stuff, because I have zero desire to play this game. Even after all the accolades you talk about, I still have zero desire to play it. But it's not because it's not because of the things that you're mentioning. Actually, those things do draw me a little bit, but it's just survival horror. I just can't do that to my body anymore.
What's funny is I'm just not. No one knows me well enough to know this. It's pretty incredible that I played this game because I am not into that genre. It's just because it's Alan Wake. Like, I love the psychological thriller kind of aspect, and while this game is creepy, it does it in an intelligent way, like that makes you think rather than like just jump scares around every corner kind of thing. Sure. There's still a couple of those, but I'm very happy with the way they crafted it, because I was afraid that it was going to be too scary, and I think it's perfectly scary.
I'll probably just watch a gameplay of it, because I do want to experience what you're talking about. It does sound too good to pass up.
It is unique in a world of video games that aren't always unique.
Understood. Yeah. All right. My number 1 should be of no surprise. Zelda Tears of the
Redfall. No. It seems
Mario
like it's
Wonder.
getting into. It seems like we were with the game of the year with Timothy Chalamet. You could see the B form. Booper Mario.
Yeah, Super Mario Wonder. I always wondered if this game was going to.
Wondered. You said it.
I did.
Game.
Didn't even try to
switch. Ting.
I need to hurry up already on myself. Yeah, this I thought about if this game was going to be better than Mario 3 or Mario World, because when I saw it in the trailers and stuff, I was like, ooh, there is a lot of stuff that is referencing both of those games, and I wonder if they're going to improve on what those games brought. It does not, but it takes from those games and brings about some interesting platforming that could not have been done if it were not for this development team that decided to look at what made Mario 3 great, look at what made Mario World great. So even some Yoshi's Island, and go, well, how do we just throw wonder in your face and do something interesting? And that's exactly what they did. You see all the references everywhere. It's fine. It's fine. It's fantastic. I could play this for a very long time. So I am super satisfied with this. It's not the best. It doesn't crack my top 4 Mario games, which are my top 4 favorite games of all time. But for this year, it is my number 1 game.
And so I can make sure it's clear with some, like there are some games that we just didn't get to play. So like I'm sure some games would have been way up my list had I got 2 seconds to play them.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Where's Baldur's Gate 3? Oh.
That one's one that doesn't interest me in the slightest.
Yeah, I want to play it because it seemed to have transcend in a way I didn't expect it would. So I feel like I should.
Street Fighter 6, for instance, might have even made my list if I'd had 2 seconds to play it in such a crowded June space.
I know. Yeah, I hear you. All right, Tears of the Kingdom is not Noah's number 1. What the frick slipped past Tears of the Kingdom and made your gold medal, Noah?
It's like, well, let me tell you about the Walking Dead Destinies.
Yeah. No, I'll just say that if I'm only through Act 1 of Baldur's Gate 3, if I had gotten to beat Baldur's Gate 3, it would have been my game of the year. But I did not. One game that I did beat this year, and it is appropriate that I'm giving it the gold medal.
Lightfall.
The gold medal. No, it is a remake. And I hadn't played it originally, so this is also new to me, my first run through. Persona 4 Golden.
Oh, wow.
Way back early this year. For those that don't know, Persona 5 Royal is my favorite game of all time. And this was just more of that, with a little bit worse graphics and a little bit fewer, epicness. But no, the story, characters, gameplay, the music, my favorite genre of music, all together in a wonderful package that you can easily play over 100 hours. And there's a specific moment where a song from the soundtrack played and just elevated the entire game to the echelon. So
the whole game.
Yep. So P4G, that's my game of the year.
P4G. So they remade it? Or they remastered it?
It was a
re-released it. No, it was a remaster. Okay.
Because
I didn't realize it was a remaster.
They added some quality of life improvements, but that was, and they updated the graphics and stuff, but it wasn't nearly where they like added new things enough to be its own. So
okay, all right, yeah, wow. I didn't even know you played that.
Yep, that game is special. And yeah,
January 19th is when it came out on Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series consoles.
So did you play Persona 5 Tactica?
I am.
Did you get to play that?
I am currently a couple of chapters in.
Okay.
My goal was to at some point work my way back to it. But then a little roguelike for one of my favorite games of all time came out, and it's given me a reason to repeatedly play this game. So
Yeah. All right.
P4T is on the bench for a while.
Yeah. Understandable. It's okay. I think I don't think he'll finish it. Maybe he'll finish it just because it's P5, but
Oh, I will.
From a game-
I will.
yeah, from a gameplay perspective, I don't think it's worth finishing. Like, it's okay. It's not a Fire Emblem. We'll say that. All right. Well, that's it. That's our top 5.
That's the games of
We're
the
done.
year.
Noah's
man.
ready to take off his headphones. He is
Dying. Man, that air really snuck up on me.
done.
One of the fun things this year too, and there were games that I played, and then the more I thought about certain features and certain things as I went on through the year, like I was higher on some games and then I was lower on them by that point. Like, when you get a chance to really digest things and it's not as fresh and new. Alan Wake was one of those where I sat there and like I played it and I did my review and everything, and obviously I gave it a really high score. But then as I sat and thought more on it and marinated, like it just went higher. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's why it made it up on number 1 on my list, because the more I thought about it, the more it was the best game I played this year.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
Although I am loving Final Fantasy VII Remake right now. I know we've talked about it before.
I'm
but
glad
I've
you're
finally
enjoying it.
Finally got 2 seconds to myself to play a video game for
to
fun.
the cult.
and that's saying a lot for David, because you don't like JRPGs generally.
Yeah, and I understand what this thing is doing, like with the combat and stuff now, which I didn't when I first put it in. Like, I played it when it came out for a couple hours and dropped off of it because I didn't understand it. This time I got in and it's like, wait, I get the whole command system and all that. Like, because I actually, they did a really good job of showing us how that worked when I got to do the preview for Rebirth, and I was able to carry that understanding back with me into this, and it's, oh man, I'm very sad. Like, I don't want to say sad, but this game has a photo mode, and I'm taking so many photos.
I don't blame you. Fun fact for my list. So I played 35 games this year. At least for the last 3 years, I've ranked every game that I've played. So, Diablo 4 started my year most of the time in 3rd place. At the time, it was A Space for the Unbound, number 1, Street Fighter 6, number 2, and Diablo 4, number 3. Diablo 4 ended up dropping to number 10 on the list. That's how crazy this year was.
Yeah.
And I liked Diablo 4 a lot. Dropped to number 10. Right behind Sea of Stars. Great year of games.
I mean, again,
So good.
when you can have something like Diablo 4 in your top, and like that dropped all the way to 10, like, it's a ridiculous year.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. All right. It was a good year. This was, I was looking at our video lists, and I think we did 50 episodes as the Gaming Trend podcast. So
pretty awesome.
We did good.
Did
job,
good.
Fellas. Appreciate it.
Before we leave for the year, we got to check one more thing, though.
How many people are
Redfall?
playing Redfall right now? Go for it. Do it.
There are on
9:35
Steam.
PM Pacific.
On Steam, there are 28 people playing Redfall.
Whoa.
Talk about like quadrupling your player counts.
Hey.
Oh man, there are people I see on threads who are like, I
I
like
hear
Redfall.
it is better.
And I'm like, really? You like Redfall? Tell me more. Because I don't.
I just want to hear you
world.
talk and see what you say.
Yeah, you realize there are some people who are just satisfied with playing something in front of them.
What other takes do you have? Do you also prefer plain oatmeal? I mean,
Oh god.
Prefers cornflakes over frosted flakes. Like, okay, serial killer. Like,
also puts in the milk first and then pours the cereal.
Oh god.
And to think, Arcane was like, "Oh man, like what we're seeing with the Red. Let's do another vampire game."
Dear Lord.
What a timeline we live in. What
Yeah,
a timeline.
This has been wild year in many ways.
Yep.
So hopefully it improves on the business side of things next year and from now on. But as far as what's been released, it's been a fantastic year. It's hard to reconcile both of those things, but it has been as far as what's been played, it's been a great year. So with that said, we're signing off for the rest of the year. We'll be back in 2024 to talk about more video games.
Oh yeah.
Deuces.